Shalom. I'm Rabbi Josh Caruso from Anshe Chesed, Fairmount Temple, and it is truly a privilege and an honor to be here today, a privilege and an honor to stand here with Evel's family and to pay her tribute in her life. And we do this in tribute, we do this in celebration, and we do this with a little sadness, because even though we know she lived a good and full life, we miss her, and we miss her spirit. And so today we celebrate her life, and we also cry some tears. And we pay her loving and fitting tribute today. In the words of Ecclesiastes, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven. A time for dancing, a time for wailing, a time for birthing, a time for dying, a time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking, a time for losing. The time of mourning is a complicated time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Evel's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. I invite you now to join with me in the recitation of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Oh, Evel was an Eshet Chayil. She was a woman of valor, but not just in the way that maybe traditionally we think of a woman of valor, at a balabusta in the kitchen, always making food and just wearing her house coat her whole life. That was not Evel. She was truly an Eshet Chayil, woman of valor in so many ways. Yes, she loved to bake and cook and do all those domestic things, but she was so much more. Her worth was truly far beyond rubies. Her husband, Sandy, put his confidence in her, and he lacked no good thing. She was good to him all the days of her life. Evel opened her hand to the needy. She extended it to the poor. She was clothed with strength and splendor and a fantastic fashion sense. She looked to the future cheerfully. She sure did. She opened her mouth with wisdom, sometimes unfiltered wisdom. Her tongue, though, was always guided by kindness. She oversaw the activities of her household, and they never ate the bread of idleness. Her children today, they come forward and they bless her. Her husband praised her as if to say, many women have done superbly, but you, Evel, you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman, that is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit and the rugelach of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds truly speak her praise. Funny, irreverent, giving, and loving. and sometimes entirely inappropriate. Evelyn Barcus was one of a kind. But that sentiment, one of a kind, just doesn't seem appropriate even. I don't know if there are words. But because we can't really, it almost seems trivial to share platitudes about Evel's life. She surpassed them. She transcends them. We probably have to come up with new phrases and ways of describing her. And then again, maybe words just won't do it. But still today, we are going to try. We are going to try to put words to the person she was, to how she impacted us, and particularly what she meant to her family, to her children, and to you. Her children will come forward and bless her and pay her tribute indeed. We're going to invite Judy and Jane and Bob and Ken to join us. They each have some words they'd like to share about their mom.
Nearly all of you who are here today knew my mom well. Her connection to people was legendary. Everything said today about Mom will be about love. Throughout her long life, she learned that love given was returned manyfold. My husband Mike describes her as a beacon of love, illuminating and reflecting love to so many people. Her unconditional love sustained me through childhood. Even when as a teenager, I did not share her interest in clothes, makeup, parties, or friendship clubs, she continued to love me unconditionally. Of course, she delighted in her first 4 grandchildren, David and Aaron, Dan and Steve, even though they were all boys and she couldn't dress them up. She had to wait a while longer before she had her darling granddaughters, Miriam, Julie, and Kate, and her great-grandchildren, Rachel, Sophie, and Ben. Once Mike and I had settled in Southwest Ohio, Mom spent many sweet high holiday celebrations at our tiny Reformed congregation in Piqua. First with Dad, and later with our friend Sheila Wise. In her honor, our temple president, who's a very good baker and better than I am, is going to make her Palm Beach biscotti for Rosh Hashanah this year, for the luncheon. After her children left the nest, and some people may not know this, Mom was attracted to the women's liberation movement. She joined encounter groups. My daughter-in-law just asked me what an encounter group was, so some of us know and some of us may not. It's a 70s word. And she got assertiveness training. That was quite a feat for a traditional housewife, not homemaker, housewife, of the 1950s and 1960s. And through these experiences, she discovered, and this is a quote, probably from an article that Violet wrote, I would guess. Her quote is, "Through this women's movement, she learned who I really was and what I really want to do." She felt empowered. Her confidence grew as she became more sure of herself. That was a real change in her life. Just a little over a year ago, at 98, Mom bounced around from person to person at our 50th anniversary party, impressing everyone with her mental and physical vitality. Asked about the secret to her longevity, and she said she was asked by too many people. Why are they asking me? She always used the word socialization. She kind of made it up, and to her, that word meant that you stay engaged with people all the time. In recent months, Mom said many times, I really thought I was immortal. We heard that. And she is. She is, because she will be in our hearts forever.
My family and I are grateful to each one of you for being here to honor my mom, Evel. You are a testament to who my mom was, a total people person. She saw the good in everyone, loved everyone, almost everyone. 3 years ago, we had a family reunion at a beach house on Lake Michigan, where my mom requested her eulogies in advance from her children. Rather odd, I thought. But at our family gathering after dinner, this is in part what I read to her, so it's in the present tense. She's amazing are the first words I utter when telling about my mom, and especially in her 90s, living alone, her life, her way, amazing is the word. Mom's days can be a microcosm of who she is. What she can do in one day makes my head spin. In a phone conversation when Dad was still living, she reviewed her day. She had picked up Violet for a 7:30 breakfast at Landerhaven honoring another friend, followed by a 10:30 exercise class and lunch at Myers. She bought an extra lunch to take to a friend. Oh, and she just put a butternut squash in the oven. So soon she'd be taking someone to a doctor's appointment. And by the way, Dad's taking her to dinner. Then there's a program later of Molly Goldberg's radio show. I asked Mom, when do you rest? I don't. It's my retirement. You never stop. It's my retirement. You've always been retired. I know, and I've always played, first with my children and then on and on. But even when Mom's not directly visiting, driving, or cooking for others, she's connecting through a lifelong passion and pastime of writing letters. This might be a repetition of what's to come. Who else do we know, besides Dad and his infamous newsletters, who epitomizes the long-lost art of letter writing? And if it weren't enough that Mom has always kept in touch with a few dozen or scores of friends and relatives, her still impeccable handwriting is beyond remarkable. Her enjoyment is increased by envisioning the other person's pleasure in getting a real letter in the mailbox. And of course, the enclosures, the pictures, the clippings, the dehydrated sponges. She loves to cook, but mostly for others. Her freezer's like a good friend, always available for sharing. I think the Jell-O molds are her signature standout. Remember the vintage pineapple carrot? The Dream Whip with colored Jell-O cubes? And her famous rainbow mold that delights the children? And as she says, nobody makes them anymore. Ah, Mom, so much to tell, and I'm only allowed 5 minutes. Next to people, she loves things and bargains. Yes, house sales, always. With limited resources, she dressed well and had extras to supply and outfit family and friends. And people bequeathed things to her. Mom may have been embarrassed by all the stuff she collected, especially when leaving Claver, but it was truly her fun and pleasure. I used to say that Mom had 10 of any item imaginable. That leads me to clothes. Her daily outfits are legendary, with all matching accessories to present herself to the public, as she would say. And to me, every time I am in town, please help me, take. I want you to go through everything. As an aside, on my last evening with Mom a couple weeks ago, as she had gotten into bed, I put on a fashion show for her from her closet, a special time that we both enjoyed. And for her, I took home a few things. I think the most ubiquitous image of Mom, for many of you, is with her camera. She says, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Stand there, smile for me." She embarked on a tedious labor of love for her 90th birthday family gathering. From albums already split up and consolidated many times, she created special boxes of pictures and memorabilia for each family member. As I tell my friends, I have been so blessed to have my mom for so long. We're the most alike in many ways. But when I look in the mirror, I see her face. When I last saw her, as I was dashing around to do things for her, she said to me, "You're just like your mother." I was touched. We would chat on the phone about everyone and everything. And when I was in town, I would gladly schmy around with her, visiting people wherever they lived, and always at Montefiore and Menora Park, Wiggins and Stone Gardens. She'd show me off, and even as a senior myself, Mom always made me feel talented, young, and glamorous. I will so miss her unconditional love, her "my sweet Jane," and like many of you, her answering the phone, "Hello, this is Evel." I gotta turn the page here. And in the tribute that I read to her at our family gathering 3 years ago, I concluded with, as I do now, how very blessed we are to have a mom, grandma, and great-grandma who says, and I quote her, "I make my life good. I am making the most of my end-of-period life because of all the precious people in my life." That's what it's all about.
So we got the Kleenex. We got the water. Yeah, breathing. Thank you, Aida. So, my sister didn't give me an introduction. And I told her that I wouldn't need an introduction because if you knew my mom, you all know how wonderful I am. And I know how wonderful each one of you is. I'm telling you, I've heard about you for 30, 40, 50 years. She tells me, and I'm trying to eat lunch, and she puts your letters in front of my nose. You got to read this. It's a pleasure to meet you. Oh, boy. So, Mom's boundless affection for all of us, was extraordinary, as she loved each one of us the most, making each and every one of us feel like we are marvelous and uniquely special to her, defying the limitations of logic and mathematics. Only Mom could do that. Her loving can be described by mathematical set theory. Stay with me here. A set being a well-defined collection of distinct objects, such as all of us here are people who loved Evel, and people loved by Evel. She created a set in which each element is greater than every other element in the set. Well, I'm not much of a math whiz, but I think that's impossible. So I checked with Cornell University math professor, Dr. Matthew Zaremski, with Cleveland roots. And indeed, that set, where each one of us is greater than every other member of the set, it's not possible, not in real numbers. But she wasn't dealing in real numbers. She was dealing in love. And that's a different story. And Dr. Zaremski suggested a way in which we could describe this phenomenon if we ordered ourselves in order of who was loved the most. We could do that. And if we made a circle, we would find that any point we went in, that was the first person in line. So if we look around at the circle of love Evel created, what a huge circle it was. Her love was unlimited by logic, and her truth was also not limited by actuality. You know where we're going here. Yeah. I always loved it when she would ask me if I wanted to know the honest truth. As opposed to what, Mom? Although basically moral, she was a practitioner of good deception, my word. If she distorted, deceived, dissembled, that's pretty good alliteration, huh? If she distorted, deceived, or dissembled, she knew her intentions were good, and the prevarication was generally for our benefit. So her mother used to make the chicken soup for all the Jewish holidays. And as she got older, the soup got blander. Taste buds, elderly, I don't know. And it was really bland for a while. And then my Aunt Gert and my mom took to taking Manischewitz condensed soup, adding a little bit, jazzed up that soup pretty nicely. A little good deception, I think. And then one year, her mother, my grandmother, said, "How's come by you? My soup tastes so good." I don't know, Ma. I don't know. Over the years, talking with her about her past, I might hear a familiar story told in quite different ways. Or she might reveal secrets previously denied or long hidden away. I'm not going to mention all of them either. During one late night, though, of reminiscing after my dad died, I asked her why the stories so often changed. She responded as casually as could be, "Because I lie." And that's the honest truth. We all know about the plain dealer fashion spread. Oh my God. Weep not for Evel. After 98 years, her dream came true. Did you ever see Such Happiness? Is where she's carrying that article around? Oh my God. It was off the charts. Just smile for her. Oh, see, I stapled them in the wrong order after all that. Back to page 3. In the hospital, some months later, she made sure that every physician, nurse, or aide saw her story from the plain dealer that she prominently displayed in her room. She wanted all to know that they weren't dealing with just anybody. Indeed, like Mike said, I guess, through Judy, she was the brightest star in a galaxy of love that includes us all. People that she corresponded with but never met. People who only felt her radiance but briefly and then stayed in touch for years. Was she perfect? No. But perfect human is an oxymoron. We're not perfect. We're people. When her iconic, ageless independence finally was waning in her last months, she could be a bit prickly. She gave us a hard time. Of course, that's when we all knew she was feeling better. I finally realized that her often stubborn misbehavior in her elderliness was payback for the legendary hard times I caused her in my adolescence. While she threatened to send me to Belfair if I didn't behave, I threatened to send her to Montefiore. What goes round comes round, Mom. This was a woman who wrote letters to us before we left for camp, so we'd be sure to get one at the first opportunity. This was a woman who embraced the Dalai Lama's dictum, "Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible." That even before the Dalai Lama was born, or reborn, something. She read and clipped and sent us all articles from the newspaper and magazines that she thought we ought to read. And often we did. Sometimes we didn't. We lied. Almost single-handedly, she kept the U.S. Postal Service from bankruptcy. She shared our personal letters and yours with almost everyone she knew. She made compensating for low self-esteem an art form, a blessing for each one of us. If you ever doubt or have any doubt that you were loved, just think of Evel. You were loved by one of the best, and you were important to her. Her love was big, strong, and beautiful. A life well lived, a life well loved, a life of everlasting love.
Who knew? That was my mother's comment to me about every other day. Common expression. She loved learning new things. She was genuinely surprised by everything she learned. She marveled at modern things while embracing antiques. Our house was filled with so much red. I think we all hate the color red. There's not one of us that owns anything that's red. She was hypnotized by GPS. We'd go on travels, and she couldn't get over it. She so wished that she and my dad had it in their many travels. I'm assuming they had quite a few disagreements over directions. I'm my mother's son in so many ways. I moved my family here because of her, and when I did, I really ceased becoming Ken Barcus. I became Evel's son. In fact, most of you already referred to me that way today. She was the reigning champ of Jewish geography. Is there anyone out here who's actually not a distant cousin? I have never known anybody with more cousins. I won't echo the talk about her sponges or her forced pictures or her eyebrow liner. We didn't mention eyebrow liner. Or the granola bags or the other treats. But I want to give you a few memories of and things I learned from her. Always tell people how much they mean to you. Remember everyone's birthday and events in people's lives. Be up for adventure. When you call my mom and you say, "Do you want to go?" you didn't have to get to the end of the sentence. She was already waiting outside for you to pick her up. She loved going to garage sales, estate sales. She seemed to have a plan, which was always be early for garage sales and late for temple. Sorry, Rabbi. That was sort of her maxim. She was very optimistic. She told me always to forgive people who offended me. I just want to tell you a quick story. In the last few years, when we were about to take her car, because she kept on having repeatedly fender benders, she promised me, because she always told the truth, that she would tell me if anything happened after 3 or 4 of these, and which she never did. And so it was in the winter, and her car was parked out front, and I was behind her, and I was leaving, and I saw it was bashed in the front. And I don't know what I was thinking. I thought maybe she hit a snowbank. She didn't even know it was dented. So I went back inside. I said, "Mom, your car's bashed up." And I don't remember what I said exactly, but she looked at me and she said, "That's just what the judge said." And I was like, "Really, Mom? There's a judge involved in this?" And she started telling me the story, what happened, and she'd already been to court. And so the next day I was driving past that municipality where the court was. I just had to go inside. I just wanted to know more information. I walked in, and I described my mother to the person at the front desk. She said, "Oh, I love those tea biscuits." So I knew my mom had been there. And she said, "Would you like to talk to the judge?" I said, "Yeah." So I waited for about a half an hour, and the bailiff came out, and the bailiff said, "The judge will see you now." And the judge walks down off the podium, and she says, "I got to get that recipe." I'm like, "You too, Your Honor?" So we were talking about how she bribed her way through the legal system. And I said, "Why didn't you take my mom's license away? I mean, she's 96 at the time. It was her 5th act, whatever." She said, "Oh, your mother promised me that she was going to stop driving any day now. And I rolled my eyes, and the judge got stern, and she looked at me, and she said, "Are you telling me that your mother lied to me?" I said, "Your Honor, I can guarantee you right now that she perjured herself right here in your courtroom." So that was my favorite story. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you who have been so kind to her the last 5 years, especially, and my Aunt Gert, Sheila, Elaine, my siblings, Beth, everybody who was there for her. It just made her have her wonderful life. Thank you.
For many of us, when we think of Evel, of course, we think of her sister, Gert. We also think of her non-biological sister, Vi Spivak. So Vi is going to share a few words.
I can't believe that two people have to help me up. That's the way it is. So, I am the last of the Citronella girls. That was our club. Now, we were so good together. And now my very best friend, Evel, is gone. And, all right. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to say except that we started to be friends through our husbands. Sandy was the best friend of my brother Leonard's. And we met, and the next day I knew we went to camp together, and we became best friends forever. And I'm not following my script because I forgot what I was going to say except that she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I shared her with the world because if you ever went to her apartment, you would see people from all over who became friends with her. And Evelyn and I were married on the same day, and we raised our children together. We were friends forever and ever, and I don't know what to say except I loved her. She had people from all over the country that she corresponded with. I didn't correspond with anybody, but she came to all of the affairs that I covered for the paper. Never could anybody have another friend like Evel. I will think about her forever and ever until we are reunited in the best way. I loved her. Thank you.
Amen.
See how old we are?
Please. Yep. Yep.
I wasn't going to, oh my gosh, look at this place is full. For Evel. Where is it? Am I doing it right?
It's all on already. She just has to speak.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't going to say anything, but I just can't believe how blessed I feel to have had Evel for my forever sister. And I want you to, listening to my 4 nieces and nephews, Evel and I were blessed in Sandy and Irv in many ways because we lived on, I don't know, a lot of you may not know that because Evel's been at the Hampton for some years, but we lived on Claver Road when our children were babies, and we lived on both sides of Washington Boulevard. That wasn't very far, and our children are here's how Evel would start out. She would say, I have 4 children, Gert has 4 children. they are not just 8 children. They are brothers and sisters and grew up with one another and have remained family all the years of their lives and all the years of Evel and Sandy and Irv and my lives.
Thank you, Gert. We also didn't hear from grandchildren. There are lots of them. But some of the ladies did want to share, and actually great-granddaughter shared a few notes that I'd just like to share that they had posted on social media, if it's okay. Julia said, "Thank you for teaching me. Thank you for teaching me how to make challah, how to be the thriftiest shopper, and the art of enjoying all things Jell-O. Thank you for teaching me the best way to write letters and the best sponges to use in every situation. Thank you for teaching me the importance of friendships and loving people unconditionally. Thank you for teaching me to always see the light and positivity in the world and to always surround myself with people I love. Thank you for teaching me, Grandma. So much of who I am today is because of you. I love you always." Kate mentioned they each posted a really cute picture of Evel. "The most fabulous person I have ever known. Here's to 99 years of handwritten letters, garage sale finds, and perfectly coordinated outfits. You were so, so loved." And Rachel posted, "Thank you for showing me how to take life a little less serious and have a little more fun. I only hope to be as stylish, fabulous, and loving as you were to every single person you met." Miriam said, when she posted her awesome red Valentine's Day outfit, she lived 99 years missing her timeless style and wonderfully over-the-top grandma way of loving already. Just some, I know those sentiments are shared by the whole family. It was important to the family, because so many of you are here, that if you wanted to take the time in just a moment, a very brief moment, to share a word of love, of memory, of Evel. Family wanted you to have the opportunity to do that right at your seats. And if somebody wanted to mention something briefly, please feel free to do that at this time. Bless you. Sheila.
Story of my life. Okay. We met as couples living in the same apartment building, and Sandy and Mark passed away within a month of each other. So Evelyn and I began going to weekly bereavement classes. About 4 weeks into the walking over to the bereavement class at Montefiore, she stopped me and said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" She said, "I'm liberated. I'm liberated." I said, "What do you mean?" "I don't have to do what anybody tells me to do. I can cook what I want. I can go where I want. I can spend the money I want." Someone referred to that in the speech earlier, and I didn't quite understand because she was a new friend. Now I know more about it. Thank you for sharing. So what began as this weekly event evolved into daily contact and conversation, which blossomed and cemented into a very deep bond and friendship. As the years passed, Evel introduced me as her new child. My mom had passed away decades before, and so now I was lovingly ready to embrace her as my now new mother. As a good Jewish mother, she fed me. You're too skinny. Eat, you gotta eat. So every time I saw her, she was bringing me smoothies and cookies and all kinds of goodies. Mandel bread. When I would go out of town, she had a key to my apartment. She would water the flowers. And when I returned home, there would always be a little basket of goodies with a note, a taste of Evel. It was like Little Red Riding Hood stopped at my door. Evel was always dressed and ready to go, and I'm going to quickly repeat some of the comments that were made, but I call her up. I'm going to CVS. I'm going to Costco. I need your consultation for flowers at the Heineken 10 sale. I'm ready. I'm ready. Pick me up in 5 minutes. I wasn't even dressed yet, and she was in the lobby waiting for me to. It's true. Every single day of her life, she presented herself to the world, fully coordinated in a very stylish way from head to toe, as was mentioned before. She said to me one day, I cannot live long enough to wear all the ensembles I can create. And she really meant it. I sent that quote to the plain dealer, and this woman said, I have to meet this lady. She's 98, and she said that, thus created the fashion flash. A week before she passed away, I went to visit her, and she said, I like your way your bangs are cut, but you need more blush. And my daughter Jennifer was in town visiting. It just so happens that Jen is engaged and she's getting married next year on what will be the exact date of Evel's 100th birthday. Wow. And so Evel presented Jennifer with a little box of vintage handkerchiefs and said, I know I won't be there, Jen, for you, but I'll be there in spirit with these handkerchiefs. That's another example of how she was always thoughtful and caring, planning ahead, that unfinished business. Evel started out as my neighbor. She became a girlfriend. She used to call everybody girls. The girls, didn't matter if you were 100 or 19, you were all one of the girls. I always loved that. She also became not only one of my best friends, but a consultant, my confidant, my teacher. She taught me things like how to pick a sweet, bright pineapple and how to correctly contour my eyebrows. Yes, these are mutual times in our lives when we came together and developed this meaningful, sincere, deep friendship that I will always treasure and cherish. We laughed and cried. We talked and walked. We even talked a lot about sex and men and all kinds of things. I'll share those secrets that she shared with me later. One time when she was in the hospital, she said to Judy, I have to live long enough to see Kate graduate and Sheila get married. Judy said, are you engaged? I said, I don't even have a boyfriend. I know. She was a mentor, a mother, and an inspiration. I am truly grateful to Evel and her family also, who have embraced me as part of them. Thanks for the memories. Evel is now with peace, and my love goes with her.
Stand up from where you are. I think instead of coming, people can just stand up. And give us, just, oh, they can't hear you.
I'm only going to take a minute. Can you hear me? I came here today, and so I just jotted some notes while I'm here today because I loved Evel so much. One word I did not hear today was hero, because Evel became my own personal hero throughout our whole relationship. I met Evel through Sandy. Sandy had come to my gardens through a JCC group. And a week later, he even argued with me, by the way, because he felt he knew more about gardening than I did when the group came to my house. Typical Sandy. But anyways, a week later, he brought Evel, and that was 12, 15 years ago. And she's been a big part of my life ever since. Ethel had a Christmas brunch every year, right on Christmas. And my husband and I went for many, many years. She had one this past year. That was the day of my husband's funeral. And so I was so sorry I couldn't come. But Gert, her dear friend Gert, my sister, came by and paid a condolence call after they had brunch. The last time I visited Evel was about 3 weeks ago. And thank goodness Ken called me, and thank goodness I did. We had a wonderful 2-hour visit. She just loved it. And something very heartwarming, bittersweet. Evel kept a file of her close friends, of different cards and things that they had sent her. And at the end of our visit that day, she gave me my file, which I will keep forever. I have never been to a memorial service where I have smiled so much. It was unbelievable. And one more thing, and that is I didn't know how much I shared, the love of letter writing. And today I brought an envelope full of copies of letters that I have written to Evel for her children to read.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe just one or two more if there's anybody else who'd like to share. Okay.
Here, I'll just come out a little bit. So I went to summer camp when I was, I don't know, maybe in 5th grade or so. And of course my grandma wrote me a letter before I even left. I was only at camp for a week, but she wanted to make sure that in that week I got a letter from her. So I get a letter, and it's in an envelope from the post office, and inside of it is a ripped up tissue paper envelope. And it has this beautiful handwritten letter, and at the end it says, "I hope you like the marshmallow I enclosed." There was no marshmallow. It was just a torn tissue paper envelope, and I just thought that was so great, and it was just so funny because of all people, of course, that she would try to send me a marshmallow in a tissue paper envelope to camp.
Thank you. Evel operated on her own set of standards. She created them with a fervor and initiative that allowed her personal license to do things and say things no one else would have the chutzpah to pull off. Maybe that's what matriarchs do, equipped with experience and wisdom, moxie and audacity. They go where others fear to go and assert themselves with an uncommon deliberateness. They cross lines others don't dare to trespass. They dispatch wisdom you don't read in books. They are cheeky and sassy and bold and impolitic. All those things and more. That was Evel. She was the matriarch. As Ken had mentioned, she was the family magnet who effortlessly drew people in and made them feel special because she thought you were special. She loved deeply with a boundless capacity for more. As she said, "I wish I could have loved more people." Even to her final days. That was a regret. As with everything else, she was over the top in dispensing love, perhaps in part because it was a hole that she wanted to continue to fill. And yes, she never failed to send those cards with impeccable handwriting, acknowledging your milestone, including a photo, an article, or a recipe she thought you'd appreciate. She was born on June 4th, 1917 in Cleveland Heights to Esther and Louis Aronoff, and she's a sibling to Leonard of blessed memory and Gert Liss. Evel and Gert would spend the rest of their lives sharing a piece of this wonderful Jewish community together as loving sisters. She graduated from Shaw High School in 1935 and worked in her dad's store, got married in 1940, and had her first child, Judy, shortly thereafter. She was married to Sandy for 71 years and met him through a friend of Vi Spivak's mother in 1935. And he gave her the nickname Evel. And of course, Evel and Sandy married the very same day that Vi and Dave did. They traveled together, Evel and Sandy, economically staying in hotels and cutting corners where they could, hostels, where they could so they could go wherever they wanted. They drove cross country, making regular trips to the Calgary Stampede. They hit every state practically, visited Israel, South Korea, India, Mexico, trips to Toronto, Niagara Falls. She required as a person and expected much of you if you were her friend, and had little patience for those who would just show up for appearances. Impatience was a theme for Evel. She was always moving from activity to activity with no sign of fatigue. She could easily attend 3 luncheons during the week and still do something at night. She never said no to an invitation. She was a dynamo. She could change her mind from one minute to the next, but in a strange way that was part of the engine that kept her going. She was receptive to new ideas, thoughts, and ways of doing things. Sometimes, though, her impulsivity got her in trouble by speaking without a filter or simply adjusting a recipe on the fly because it was what moved her in the moment. She needed to be on the move, and if she saw one roadblock, she would find a new way to get where she wanted to go. And yes, when she could no longer drive a car, she found others to drive her and take her home. And of course, during those women's movements, she embraced Betty Friedan and her inner feminist. She was wearing pants, and eventually in the 60s, she got to jeans, which was a big deal. But she wore jeans throughout the rest of her life. She loved them. She embraced that health food craze of the 70s. She found vegetarianism. And yes, after her husband Sandy died, she reinvented herself again. Truly a mother of reinvention, as Ken had mentioned, realizing that she still had much more love to give. After Sandy died, she remodeled her living room, started again. She never really let up taking care of her home, her body. She made sure to get her 10,000 steps in every day when she could, and did other exercises to keep in shape. And of course, when she was asked that question, how have you lived so long? She would say all of the things that were said tonight about being social, about having a myriad of friends. I get up in the morning, she said, I'm happy to be alive. My life is so good. I'm full of smiles all the time. I have 4 amazing children. I've never felt alone. She loved to dress up and, of course, the fashion. And in that interview in The Plain Dealer in Cleveland.com, she talked about taking the streetcar to Taylor's and Bailey's and May Company and Higbee's and Halley's and coordinating clothes in the way she could only do. She truly was a dynamo. She was resourceful. She made the most of what she had, finding clothes that matched the occasion. If it was the 4th of July or Valentine's Day, and if she found hand-me-downs from someone else, she would think of a family member if she couldn't use them. And she would say, so-and-so died, and they left a beautiful pair of shoes. Would you like them? She wasn't the most observant Jew, but she had a reverence and appreciation for faith. And of course, those delicious rugelach. Ken even has a video of her making them. So I feel very connected to Evel, and I was always quite fond of her. And I remember when Dan introduced me to her, I kept thinking she was his mother and that Judy was his sister. Just couldn't put it all together. But, and then the whole Ken being the uncle thing, yeah, I thought there was had to figure it out. But I had a blast every time I saw Evel at a temple event, at a Women of Fairmount Temple event. She'd always just give me that smile. It was great. And she was so, so kind to me. And as we think about her life and the indefatigable amount of love that she was prepared to give every day, It's almost as if it wasn't enough. And even though she died peacefully in her home, as she had desired, and that was the plan when Ken moved here 20 years ago. He thought he could be here to give his kids a chance to get to know their grandma for another 5 years. Well, they had 20. He saw to it that Evel got what she wished, to leave this world with dignity, to die in her home. She admitted she really thought she was going to live forever. And yet in those last days, she knew time was finally running down. I'm making the most of the time I have left, she said, because of all the precious people in my life. That's what it's all about. She was incredulous in her realization that she would not live forever. And frankly, I think we all thought the same thing. We just thought Evel was going to be here. And so next week is the Women of Fairmount Temple's opening luncheon. And her absence will surely be noticed. I will miss Evel. We will miss Evel. We'll miss her for so many reasons. Because she taught us what it means to live life out loud. Unabashed. We will miss her because she modeled what it meant to be a good friend. We will miss her because she had this spark, this specialness about her that made us all say, when I get to that age, if healthy, I want to be just like that. We miss her because a light, a really bright light, has dimmed in this world. We miss her because when we saw her, we kind of felt everything was going to be okay. With Evel here, there's a smile not far away. We miss her because we loved her, because she was a blessing. It is through these memories and through all the stories that you heard today, through the laughing and some crying, that we will tell those stories again and again. And through these stories, her memory will forever be a blessing. Amen. Let us pause for a moment as we think about the gifts Evel brought to each one of our lives. We just pause as we think of them and we think of her. I invite you now to please rise for the chanting of El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, במעלות קדושים וטהורים גזור רקיע מזהירים את נשמת אבלין בת לואיס ואסתר שלח לעולמו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתה אנא בעל הרחמים הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני ונחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן. Malei Rachamim, the Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Evelyn Barcus, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. On behalf of the family, I want to mention how grateful they are for you to be here today to help them celebrate and mourn Evel. The family will be receiving friends at the Hamptons Community Room, 27040 Cedar Road in Beechwood. They will be receiving friends only today through 3 p.m. Once again, at the Hamptons Community Room through 3 p.m. today. We continue with the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma bivrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'galau v'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam alomei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Yehei shalom Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, and we say together, Amen.